A new study shows a $2 billion difference between building a jail and building an entertainment complex. But does that necessarily make it a no-brainer? We'll explore the impact of stadiums on cities. And Michigan, a hotbed of fake news consumption. Why is our appetite for dubious news so strong? Today is Sunday, April 9th, 2017, and this is Flashpoint. Hi, welcome to Flashpoint on what many sports fans no doubt feel is a bittersweet weekend in Detroit. So much excitement around the new arena on Woodward that's going to open this fall, but that means the end of the line for two other venues. And tonight, the Red Wings will play their last game at Joe Louis Arena. Then tomorrow night, the finale for the Pistons at the Palace of Auburn Hills. Both the Joe and the Palace brought us championship teams. Both notably were the scene of legendary fights, and both take a lot of history with them, from the Bad Boys to the Russian Five, from the going to work Pistons to the Wings grind line. So there you have it, Little Caesars Arena. Understand that the standards around here are very high, and with both teams watching the playoffs from home this year, here's to better things to come. We're going to talk about arenas today and what they mean to a city, the impact they can have. This week, the University of Michigan released a study commissioned by Dan Gilbert that projects his longed-for soccer and entertainment district would mean almost $2.5 billion in economic benefit to Southeast Michigan. $2.5 billion? Is that possible? Well, we're going to talk with one of the authors of that study, and we're going to dig down into whether we over or underestimate the power of sports cathedrals in our midst. A little later on, another new study shows Michigan was especially targeted during the election with fake news. Did it matter? And what do we do about it, especially since we can't seem to agree on what fake news is? That's coming up a little bit later on. But let's start this morning with Mark Rosentraub from the Center for Sport and Policy at the University of Michigan, the author of the Gratiot Site Economic Impact Study commissioned by Rock Ventures. And Mark, let me let you start with, that was one of the first criticisms I heard was, well, it was commissioned by Dan Gilbert, so of course it's going to tilt in his favor. We see that in other places where the Garlic Association of America commissions a study, and all of a sudden we find out garlic is good for us. So deal with that issue first.
Well, in terms of commissioning it, all that Dan's group actually did is they gave us the actual construction budget that they've planned. And people have to remember, this is not just a soccer facility. This is a real district unto itself with an extraordinary amount of commercial real estate, residential development taking place. So it's not just a soccer stadium, it's quite a bit. But even in commissioning the study, all that people have to remember is that they gave us basically a pro forma about here's what we're proposing to the county, this is what we plan to build, and we validated these numbers are going to, it'll cost this much to build those buildings. Everything after that, Dan's group had no control over. We did the analysis and things of this nature. So I just want people to understand. Yeah. Yes, we did get a construction pro forma. Yes, we have construction figures, and it says that in the report.
Important issue. But right. We end up with a rather eye-popping figure that you're looking at almost $2.5 billion, you believe, that I think a lot of people think that that's outlandish. How can it possibly be worth that much?
Well, let's break out the pieces. So one is we have a jail site that's over $400 million. All right, so that's big unto itself. Then we've got the soccer facility, but then we have a very large commercial building, a very large hotel, we have parking that's being built. Each one of those components starts getting up into the $100 million of construction. So people have to get past the point of saying, well, gee, it's just really a soccer stadium. Yep. When I break out all of those pieces, then suddenly we're getting up to an actual direct spend of more than $1.5 billion. So when we start talking about an overall economic impact of the recycling, somebody could just take a look at the pro forma and say, you know what, let's not even count any of the respending. Let's just take a look at what is being proposed. And what's being proposed is well over $1.5 billion of construction.
You see it as 32,000 jobs.
Right.
That's a good-sized city.
But people have to remember that that's during the construction phase. So there's two components, as we underscore in the report. Yeah. During this time period when you're doing the building, which we're projecting over 5 years, that will produce those number of construction jobs and the secondary jobs. Yeah. The permanent number of jobs is much smaller, as one would expect. It's about 2,100. So we report,
which again is more than a soccer stadium. That includes the entire footprint.
And I think everybody knows that if we're talking about a soccer stadium, the number of employees are pretty small. So when you see the figure of 2,100, then that's basically saying, okay, then there's got to be something bigger going on here, because a soccer facility, maybe you'll have 100 employees. Where did this other 2,000 come from? Well, then you start getting into the amount of commercial, retail, residential space that he's talking about actually building.
Now, then the other part that I don't know that you feel necessarily is your place to weigh in, but almost immediately, Warren Evans, the Wayne County executive, said, well, I'm not really impressed. This doesn't change my thinking. We still need the dollars to make sense on our end. Wayne County really only makes its money off of property taxes rather than economic development, I guess you would suggest. What would you say to him?
In the short run, there certainly is not going to get the kind of payoff that one would want out of the property taxes, and I understand that position. But there's a couple of points that one would raise in response to that. One is, I assume through the negotiations, the jail that the county needs is going to be built, and Dan's group is projecting that at about $420 million.
Right.
So that's going to get built, and that's going to occur, and I'm sure they'll get to a certain point where they're all comfortable with that. Then on top of that, we're going to be talking about the fact that with all this scale of construction going on, there's going to be a lot of spending and respending that's going to go on through the area. We're creating 2,000 permanent jobs. A lot of those people are going to live in Wayne County. So I get it. In the short run, if we want money tomorrow, yeah, it's not. The city of Detroit would get more. The county their return would be later, but their return is going to be quite impressive when you begin recognizing that these jobs produce not only direct spending, but indirect spending, and then we're talking about 2,000 people added to the workforce.
Fascinating. Mark, thank you very much for your time and your expertise on this. Really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We'll talk about it more today on Flashpoint. All right, well, let's talk about this a little bit further with the man from Ignition Media, Dennis Archer Jr. back with us, former City Council member Sheila Cockrell with us again, and John Gallagher, the writer for the Detroit Free Press, who has followed so much of this. John, I want to start with you. It's interesting talking to Mark about the way that this study was put together and the way that these plans are coming together. We have, I think, a certain skepticism about the ability of a sports stadium or an arena to be all that much. But what we're seeing with both what the Red Wings are doing and now what Dan Gilbert's proposing, this is more than a place to play.
Right.
A game.
Right. The plan is to build hotel, housing, office parks, restaurants, and all in the whole package. And so the number in Mark's report is almost irrelevant. It's going to be a big number, no matter if it's 1.1 or 1.2 or 1.3. It's definitely going to be a big number, no matter what they do.
Well, then what's the tie-up here, Sheila? I guess because Warren Evans, though, has a different set of needs than what we might all be excited about when we look at the drawings and the plans.
Well, I look at it as what's the highest and best use of that piece of real estate. And long-term, it is definitely not keeping a jail or criminal justice facilities there. However, that's a really core function of government, is to provide public safety, provide criminal justice services. So the county exec is absolutely right and is doing his job and saying, nice study, but that doesn't answer my questions. This is what we're going to need in order to have a facility that meets the needs of people who have to come to the criminal justice centers, and the people who are going to be adjudicated in it, and that's got to be his primary thing.
Dennis, you've got a restaurant not too far at all from where all of this would happen. So what do you say when people say to you that, you know, sports arenas and us, the way that we backstop and support billionaires with their playthings really isn't the best use of our time or money?
I think that if you look at even in the environment that we're in today, whether someone is opening a small boutique or restaurant in a neighborhood in Detroit, there are mechanisms for them to get incentives for those investments. And I think the larger the project, the larger the incentive is going to be. And so I think, again, it's another issue where the business case is not necessarily explained well to the general community. I think that I, as a business person, I completely get it. I mean, if you look at the cost associated with building in Detroit now vis-a-vis the rents that upon completion you'll be able to collect to support the debt that you accumulate, et cetera, there's a gap. And that's why we have these different incentives, because there are various gaps. I think getting back to the point earlier, though, as it relates to Warren's responsibility, the report is great. I read it. I think it's great that a Spartan went to University of Michigan to commission the report. But I think, to John's point, we knew that these numbers were going to be incredible, but everyone wants the sheriff to look at this, the executive to look at this holistically. But his responsibility is Wayne County. So you look at the report, and there's millions of dollars of income tax to the state and to the city. But the projection of property tax benefit, which does go to the county because of incentives, are out 15 to 17 years. And so he has to take all of that into consideration, in addition to the fact that he's offering to build a new jail.
There's a nagging pebble in the shoe here, John, to many, which is this component of the plan whereby Dan Gilbert would be sort of reimbursed for whatever savings are realized on behalf of the county, which just feels like an icky,
it's a funny number,
unmeasured thing, immeasurable thing.
Well, wherever you build a new jail, either on Gratiot or out on East Forest, it's going to be more efficient than the existing jail. Better elevators, better heating, air conditioning, better workflow. So they'll definitely save money operationally over what they have now. And what Dan Gilbert is saying is that if our number on East Forest is big enough, then what you would have gotten had you completed the half-fail jail that you started already, then we ought to get some credit for that. But the question is, what is that number? Now, I'm guessing it's in the $5 or $10 million a year range, you know, but who knows? Who knows what it is? And I think that's actually what they're working on right now, trying to figure that out.
You actually think that that's a reasonable thing for him to ask?
I do. I mean, I think it's very typical to have a gain share sort of relationship in business dealings. But I think that, again, it has to be explained.
Wouldn't it be cleaner to just say, look, here, I've built your jail, we're done, I'll go over here to my...
It would, but you're also asking someone who's going to invest billions of dollars, acquire this site here, and also, in order to make the deal work, I'm going to go over here and build a $420 million facility. And so if I can save you a little bit of money that you otherwise would not have saved, it's reasonable to participate in that gain share.
Well, I think, first of all, this is Gilbert is coming to everybody else saying, here's what I'd like to do. So it isn't as if the county came and said, please do something. Secondly, even if we, at a certain point, there's a public, I mean, there's tax capture that's not going to go to the city or the county for a very long time. There's going to be increased services needed by both the city and the county when you build a new facility like this. So, I mean, I think it's a great plan. I think and hope that the public sector will drive a very hard bargain on this recapture, because at the end of the day, the public sector has to provide for the public health, safety, and welfare of everybody, including all the people that are going to come to Gilbert's latest venture.
John, Warren Evans has talked pretty tough through this whole process, which is interesting given that he's the one who has this enormous albatross that he's trying to figure out. But is your hunch that this all eventually comes together?
Well, I thought it would have been done by now. I'm wondering a little bit that it's dragging on, but I'd still say more likely than not.
I agree. It gets done.
And it should. It should get done. This is a way, this can become a scenario that's a win-win.
Fascinating. Great conversation, gang. Thanks for being here. We come back. Why so much fake news, in particular in Michigan during the election campaign? This is Flashpoint on Local 4. Welcome back. It was interesting to hear that Oxford University was studying the impact of fake news in the U.S., but even more interesting to find they were focusing on the state of Michigan and our tight election race. What happened and what do we do about fake news? Very happy to have with me a great group to talk about it this morning. Angie Early is here, learning librarian from the University of Michigan and one of the designers of a course to be taught in the fall on fake news. Angie, thank you for coming. Also with us, Detroit Free Press columnist Nancy Kaffer is back with us again. Former reporter, now the head of McConnell Communications, Darcy McConnell, and Ray Wirt, who started out working in politics, then moved to Jalopnik and then Gawker, and now founder and CEO of Tiny Toy Car. Ray, good to have you here as well. Angie, I want to start with you. Okay. When you started this idea of maybe we ought to have a course on fake news, it was one thing. Since then, and then since this study, great idea, huh?
We have been so pleased that people are interested in thinking about fake news and trying to discover strategies to address fake news.
Well, as somebody who's going to be teaching the course, let's start with a working definition of fake news, because I find that to be a huge problem.
We have found that as well, as we ask students, as we ask other people. What I love about the Oxford study is they're calling it junk news, which brings in all of these different ideas of made-up news, of misinformation, of disinformation, information that is designed to make you think in a certain way because other information is missing.
It is an interesting distinction. Ray, I find though that a lot of people, journalists think of fake news as being stuff that's made up out of whole cloth to maybe move an opinion in a certain way. But our president and others who email me and think that suggest fake news is maybe news that they don't believe is newsworthy, or that they disagree with an editorial persuasion on that story. We all are going to have to agree on what it is, I suppose, before we can move forward.
Absolutely. I think that there are, one of the big issues is this sort of this dichotomy here between what is considered usage of the term as sort of a political tool, and then usage of the term in the form of consumers who are just trying to figure out what's real and what isn't real. Because at the end of the day, in much the same way that a consumer wants to know what the ingredients are in their food, I think it's really interesting now as people are trying to figure out what are the ingredients in their media diet. And so I think any type of ability to be able to create some clarity there is extraordinarily important.
Darcy, how impactful has this been in your world? You used to be reporters, I mentioned. Now you work with a lot of political candidates. You watch the way that it affects and moves a race. How big did it feel to you during the election season?
Well, I think I've been concerned about this issue for a while, because in the age of the internet, everybody has the capacity to be a reporter. And I always said we were going to have a challenge, because the difference was there was no filter. You know, in the newspaper business, we had eyes upon eyes that read our stuff, lawyers who look at our stuff. And so, but you know, in social media, anybody has that platform. So I've always been concerned about that. And frankly, journalists, politicos, also challenged with credibility. So it does make it that much harder to break through to the masses. Even if you are credible, the built-in cynicism got even bigger. So.
And Nancy, I'm going to assume your inbox looks like mine, and you're accused often of either writing about or that your paper has printed fake news.
Yeah, and I think that really, I would agree with this. The definition, journalists tend to think of the term fake news as applying to something that's totally made up. But our readers, if it's something that they don't agree with, a perspective they don't agree with, or something that they don't feel is particularly important to them, essentially, why are you making a big deal out of something I don't consider important? They'll label it fake news. But I kind of think that one of the things I look for in the media I consume is perspectives I don't have, stories that aren't necessarily related to my life, because I like to broaden.
You don't want to just be in your silo?
Right, it's crazy. I mean, you know, it's just, we have an amazing wealth of journalism coming from around the world that we can access via the internet, and you have this ability to put yourself in the life of someone in India, and you know, in Europe, in different countries, to see things the way that you can't see them from your seat here in Michigan. And I think that I wish more people would be open to these experiences of saying, this isn't important to me, but it's obviously important enough to someone that they put it in the paper. Maybe I should read it and think about it.
Well, let's get to the kind of news then, Angie, that I think the study was suggesting, that what I think is for many of us the most problematic, and that is the stuff that is sort of just invented. It has gotten so sophisticated, the way that it's created, the way that it's targeted, and the way that it looks. You feel like you're reading a release from, say, Pew Research, which is one that I saw recently, and you really got to dig to find. So how do we arm ourselves against this stuff?
Well, speaking to what you said, reading widely is definitely one of the strategies that we ask people to do. We also need to, it's just like a muscle, these kind of practice things that we do. The more we do it, the more automatic it becomes, the easier we will be able to access those critical thinking skills, sort of make our thinking visible at first. Why are we feeling this way? Why? Based on the language that's being used, why is it perhaps it's intending us to feel a certain way. Make it that out of our heads, discuss it maybe in a safe space like a classroom, so that we can practice this and then transfer those skills out when we're having conversations at the dinner table.
Ray, how do we?
Well, I think that this is not something that is new just to the digital medium or digital platforms. This has been something that has been a problem in every single new platform that has.
Every time we come up with one, you come up with a workaround.
How do you determine whether or not the National Enquirer or the New York Times are they equal sources? If they're sitting next to each other on a newsstand, they're you know. You have to use some level of personal responsibility here in order to be able to
tougher though online. When I'm at the newsstand, you're suggesting, I'm not sure anybody is creating a fake copy of the National Enquirer or the New York Times. But that's what's going on online.
No, absolutely. And I think that we also have to look to some of these platforms to help in that, whether it's helping to identify, as Facebook's starting to do with creating notifications that say this is real or this has been verified, this has not been verified. But I also think that they should be, you know, if an outlet is an outlet that is making things up, that is creating things that are actually fake, then they need to be taking a look at ways to be able to make sure that that isn't.
It's a great question, though, as to what that is, because, Darcy, we have libel and slander laws, but I don't know if we have laws against forwarding something that's not really true if I think it's true.
Forwarding, there's been some test cases related to, you know, people saying scurrilous things about others, using that platform maybe to trash a business or, you know, someone's credibility with their product. But yeah, I mean, it would be nice if there were some additional filter that was out there and some mechanism to hold those folks accountable for just putting out falsehoods.
So part of the issue here is the primary mechanism a lot of us use to find stuff out are search engines, particularly Google, huge dominator of the market. I've been reading more and more about the sort of need for additional transparency into how Google figures out what to present you. Google is more and more, all these platforms are moving more and more toward presenting stuff to you that you are interested in. And there are some sites, and fake news sites, I'm sad to say, have often been better at this than legitimate news sites in gaming the search engine to ensure that their stuff gets in front of you. And I read a great piece in The Guardian recently that you should all go look up, talking about search and Google. And in the fact that we're consumers of media through this tool, that we have really no insight and accountability. There's no accountability, there's no insight as to how we're getting this news. Obviously it's a private business, but we're their market. So what's our role in demanding more information into why they're showing us what they're showing?
In fact, Angie, that's really part of, that's why this stuff works for a lot of people. It's what we want to believe. It's so this just kind of, it's easier to accept something that is already in our system.
Right, or that we see on Facebook or some other social media site where it's been shared to you by your mom or someone, you know what I'm saying? That like
you should never trust anything that is shared from my mother.
Okay, good to know.
Sorry, Mom. I love you, but
this is work.
Old journalism proverb: if your mother says she loves you, check it out.
Snopes.com. We'll help you through that. Take a quick break. This is Flashpoint on Local 4.